Welcome back to Phenomenon Radio, only on KGRAradio.com. Here for the final segment of Episode 5 of Phenomenon Radio with our next guest, Larry Warren, joining the show. Adrian Bustinza still on the line, and here is John Burroughs.
Thanks, Race. Larry, I want to welcome you to the show.
Well, thanks, John.
And where I want to go with this last half an hour is, over the years, there's been a lot of talk about different things that went on out there. And I want to set the stage. Adrian had two different encounters with two different things. I want Adrian to start with talking a little bit. He's already talked a little bit about what happened with him and I, but I want him to go a little bit more into detail about what he encountered at first before him and I went forward, and then start having you go back and forth about what you saw and what went on. So go ahead.
I'd like that. That'd be great. And it's great to have the opportunity with my old friend. It's been a long time.
So go ahead, Adrian.
You want me to start like when I left the East Gate, or
no? When you were coming up, where you and Larry were together, and what you guys saw together, what went on, like the mist and the whole thing. And then Linda's got a couple questions on that.
That was in the field, Linda, by the way, before. That wasn't in the trees.
Okay.
Right. And I was going to say, in the field, what I was talking about, and you recall the haze that I was talking about, that yellow haze. And, it was, at night it got cool. The temperature would drop. And that night, we had our field jackets on. It was kind of cool night. It wasn't very cold, but that mist that just hung out. That's one thing that's always baffled me about what it was. Because I know it wasn't no fog. And Larry, do you recall that mist that I'm talking about? And
oh, absolutely. And that red light off in the trees, the amber light you were describing anyway. And again, folks, we have not talked to each other in 35 years at all. And that arced in, and there were a lot of people there. And Colonel Halt was on 500 yards on the other side of the farmhouse. And I think that's where you and John later had the thing when you went into the light and all. Yeah, I won't forget it, but it's very hard to do radio if you've never done it. And I commend you, my friend, because you're John, yourself, the guys that are standing up are heroes. But people got to understand how really fractured and weird this thing was for days and weeks and months, and maybe how different people deal with it or recall. But do you remember in them blue lights that were near the ground? And do you remember something about that, or have I been, there was something intelligent about all that with maybe a face? I'm just wondering.
Well, and that's
or is that going too far for you?
No, and that's part of the part of it that you and I experienced. That it's very hard for me, because at one time, it's confusing, and the confusion is that I'm the battle that I'm.
I don't want you to have any trauma with this, my brother. You've done me a great service. Unfortunately, you've caused yourself a bit of a problem. You see, now you've joined the ranks of the great Satan himself, me, Lord Admiral of the Fleet, Peter Hill Norton, and now your good self, sir, for saying we had nuclear weapons, which thus makes it extreme defense significance. You're getting a medal.
Larry, you are referencing that glowing sphere that you told Ben Jameson and me about in 1986, that you could see what appeared to be 2 or 3 heads or faces with large black eyes and some sort of a spherical glowing something?
I saw something off to the right of that thing that kept changing, like Adrian's, the whitish rainbow thing, and it's hard. Off to the right, and I did indeed, and it broke into 3 parts. like he described. He says 5, but I kind of remember the 3. I remember very clearly. Well, what do I remember clearly? I don't even remember leaving the forest, and that only came up last year when. Hey, Buzz, do you remember leaving the place? Because John and I did a show. You're depicted in it, and your actors look like you guys. Lucky you. Um, when I left, you were there, and other guys, Bobby Ball, all the guys. He sent me back, but I can remember. Oh man! Finally, this thing gets a depiction of how active it was out there that night. It wasn't just Colonel Halt's group. I forget what I was just going to say because I'm a bit overwhelmed that it's so long with all this.
Larry, you have
Yeah.
always described long ago what you said was a yellow, misty.
Yeah, honey, I've been on record for many. I'm the whistleblower for the damn thing, so I know.
Okay, and right now, what is so interesting tonight is that we have comparative points between what Adrian has talked about, seeing something that exploded like a fireworks, your long ago description of seeing something split or explode in the air above a yellow, round, misty something you compared to an aspirin. I wonder if tonight, for the first time in stereo, Adrian has his memory that seems to resonate with what you described in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Adrian, do you remember?
Go ahead.
Adrian, do you remember any of that?
Yes, I do. And, I've never, come out and said this, but that I recall. But there was a point what Larry's talking about where the amber light and the bright, that snowy picture that I'm telling you about. At one point, Larry and myself, if I recall correctly, Larry walked around and I stayed put. And what he's referring to, it was like a snowy picture and you could see a silhouette. Now, the silhouette that I was seeing is like, I think I had mentioned this to you once before, John, that I couldn't tell if it was, okay, I'll just come out and say it. I couldn't tell if it was a being or if it was Larry. But then I saw the same thing with you when the light hit you. But going back to with Larry, it was, I can't tell you exactly how long, but on that instance, yes, we also, it appeared like Larry was in that, I know he walked like a distance from me, but when it broke, it's when the haze or the fuzzy, snowy picture, it just all congealed together and then just burst into different, into different parts. But, that's what I have difficulty with, is that did I see something, or was it the silhouette from Larry and other people? But then I go back to your part when you got hit with a light, and almost the same thing happened. But I know where you are, but I'm also seeing something else, and I'm not sure if it maybe was a reflection of you, or was it a beam?
Adrian,
Right.
could I ask you a question, John? Adrian,
Sure.
do you mean that when John was out there and you were beside him and you went to the ground, that you think that maybe you saw some sort of a silhouette where the red-orange light was coming over John as well?
Yes, ma'am.
And where was that silhouette, possibly a being, in relationship to John's head, torso?
It was like, I don't want to use the word shadow because there's no shadow at night. Not in that instant, but it looked like standing within arm's length, and I thought maybe it was a reflection of him because of how bright the light was. But I mean, I couldn't make out, hands or facial parts such as nose or eyes or anything. It was like a snowy. The whole light area was snowy, but then you could actually see, a body, like, a reflection, but not quite a reflection. And that's what, with Larry, I know what I saw exactly.
Can I ask, because I haven't had the chance in so long, do you remember the beginning of guard mount that night? And he was our sarge. I was new on post with a lot of my flight guys. And Adrian, can I just say, because we're in the same game, you were a sarge, I was airman first class like John at that time. Do you remember, brother, that we had the 2 weeks incoming, your clearance comes in, you do the sailing around, riding right shotgun with LE, then you're out on the post. And when you guys got me, I was on perimeter 18, bottom of the flight line on Bentwaters. Right. That's when we went to get the motor pool. And there was a girl named Belinda Green, I think Cookie, was in that.
That's her, John.
She's out there now, Cookie.
Right.
And she and I want to just real quick, it ain't my show, it's been so long for this, is that, the cameras, when they did that, you can hear, and I've been out here screaming for years, right? But when the coppers came, the Suffolk PD, there was only 2 in that area for 50 miles. You can hear them arrive on Halt's tape. But Adrian, I just wanted to ask you, I think Smitty was the guys that when we stopped in the open van, that's when we were in the pickup truck, that's where you were, Bruce, I think, yelled out, "Where the hell do we go?" And they said, "After Eastgate, turn left." And that must have been Smitty if they had him stationed there. So there's another piece for me. But I just want to say, when we actually did meet, I want to say, God bless our mothers, because I remember there's a lot of people that used to say, you came to me and I ran off and spent 35 years being you. As handsome as you are, I did not, as I think some people upsettedly found out tonight. But I want to say, when I did finally sit down with Adrian, it was at a distance we saw each other and a lot of other guys, but he was a really good sarge. He would go partying and drinking all night over the clubs, and John didn't either and all that. But I got a note from, do you remember Cindy Schultz? And I think she might have been a gal pal between both of us. We knew her well. And she sent me a note, and it was in March of 81. And I will never forget that night when you and I sat in your room, not thinking of how are we going to make a big business out of this, totally freaked out, and what we're going to do about it. We were young, we were naive, the world was very different. But man, I want to, better for worse, the world owes you a thanks, because you were still in. I felt bad when I left there, breach of contract on their part. I didn't feel safe. I was worried about you. I want to thank you. You inspired me to move on, and I'd do it again. I'm just sorry it ever hurt any of you guys.
Yeah, it's actually, Larry, it needed to come out. What I want to go into something that's been discussed, Adrian, we've discussed it off the air. Larry, I think you've talked about it at one point. But at any time, either when you two were together, and I think you did say something at one point, Larry, if you didn't, correct me. And then I know, Adrian, you talked.
Oops.
Hello.
I'm here.
Hello.
I'm here.
Is John Burroughs here?
Stand by, Linda. I think John's, he's clicked here. Let me see if he's going to come right back. Seems like we still have him connected.
There's some parties that don't want these conversations to happen. That's all.
Race, I can ask a very important question.
Sure, go right ahead.
I'm here.
There we go. Go ahead, John.
What I was asking guys was simply, it's been brought up that on that night also at some point, I don't know if it was when you saw me go into it, Adrian, or both with you and Larry, and when you saw me go into Adrian, at one point you both thought it looked like at some point like in a triangle or exploded into type of triangle type object. Do either one of you remember that?
Oh yeah, I do. That it was a triangular-shaped object. But this would have been away from where you guys later on, see, folks, this had John, where you went in this thing. I wasn't there. I got sent away and don't remember. I remember turning my weapon in with the sun up. I didn't walk back. No one. Why don't any of us remember going back?
Right. And Adrian, didn't you tell me at one point when I went into it for a minute, it looked like it exploded with some blue lights and triangular object also?
Yes, that is correct.
Do you want to describe that a little bit?
Well, you know, and this is the closest that I can come to saying, you know, it can be compared to two things. You know, when you use bubbles and you blow bubbles out and you use the big one and you get one big old bubble and then you poke it and it breaks out. Sometimes it just breaks completely and sometimes it breaks into 3 or 4 different parts.
Right.
That's how it looked like. It just, when it burst, it looked like it just came apart.
Blew off the sides of this thing, didn't it? Like a bubble when you blow a bubble. That works.
Adrian, did you see John rise up into that light?
I can't say that I saw him rise, but, you know, because of the way, I mean, the light was hitting down. I saw John, and he was startled, and I was startled because it seemed like the light was like right at my feet, and then John was right in the middle of it, and then that's when I felt like I got pushed, and that's when I fell towards the light, and, you know, when I felt the push, I tried to restrain myself, and that's when I put my hand down to break my balance and brace myself. But, you know, I couldn't tell you if John was lifted or if John was, you know, levitated or whatever. I mean, I just remember very clearly seeing John, and, you know, it was snowy. I'm looking at him, and then I can't tell you for sure if it was but like a silhouette that just, you know, of him or another person. And I'm trying to picture it right now exactly how I saw it, because I saw the same thing with Larry, but with Larry it was different because I know what I saw exactly, and it wasn't just one, it was several. It was, I'd say 2, 3, and with John it was just one.
Was there a difference in the shape between the silhouette and John?
The one from John and Larry were different. Yes, the one for John was more. It was not as defined as the one with Larry. And I don't, with Larry, it was, I don't know if it was, you know, when you get a reflection that sometimes they look smaller, sometimes they look a little bit shorter than that person at your neck. But with John, the silhouette was, it wasn't the same size as John. John's a tall person. The silhouette was not that big. The figure that I saw, and I'll be honest, you know, I clamped up. I think with Larry was the only time that I ever spoke with Larry on his part, but I had never mentioned that to John before because that was one. I mean, one too many times for me was more than enough.